Dream big, never stop dreaming, because you can do whatever that you want as long as you believe in your dreams.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Dare to Dream Productions podcast. Welcome Italian screenwriter Pietro Schito. He runs the profound Write Something Great website and YouTube that helps anyone regardless of experience become a professional screenwriter with an emphasis on animation storytelling. He also has a successful production company in Guadalajara, Mexico. I'm very excited to announce there will be a surprise opportunity for our viewers with him at the end of the interview. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Bridget. So nice to see you. How are you?
Nice to see you too. I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, good. Ready to start.
I'd love to begin by talking about what it's like to be a professional screenwriter and working with a variety of studios. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and advice on how to break into the industry?
Yes, so I started when I was, I would say since I was a little kid, I always loved to grab the camera, the family camera, and start telling stories with what I could, like with my Ninja Turtles action figures and whatnot. And it was not until I was at the university and they invited a screenwriter from Disney to give a course on writing. And for me, that opened up an entire world. It really was something that struck to me. And it was like, when I discovered all the principle behind a good story. There was a narrative, there was a craft that is as old as human nature, like where we have like this possibility to learn from great stories. It was like, that's what I want to do. Since then I've been writing, and I got a scholarship to the New York Film Academy of Los Angeles, where I was really forced to write, because it's a very intense program, very practical. We wrote like 2 feature films, multiple short films, TV pilots, and more. And then the way I was able to break into the industry was like by connecting with people at film school, and also during my internship, where I was offered to get my first feature film produced. And so I got an option on that. And after that, I came back to Mexico, where I started connecting with people in the animation industry. The local animation industry is very active, and there's like a group of directors that are working a lot in different kind of animation, and I started writing for them as well. So and about the way, how do you break into the industry? I think that if you ask 1,000 people, they will give you 1,001 answers, because everybody has something different. My very big experience, like being on a big set, was through doing behind the scene videography for a feature film that was filmed in the same lot where they filmed the Titanic here in Mexico. But the takeaway that, is for me that you need to put yourself out there and start to not be afraid to show your material to people, and also to find unconventional ways. Like I guess that most of people I know, that nobody get into the industry through the front door. They all get through a window. So find your window, find what's something else that you can do in the industry that can put you closer to other people. So for me, doing behind the scenes videography, it meant like going to each department of the production and connect directly with from the prop master or Academy Award winner actors that I was interviewing. And so you get a feel of how the industry works from different point of views, and it was a great experience for me. That's how it started.
I think that's great advice. So you focus mainly on animation, and as a narrative filmmaker myself, I think it's important to learn the structure of animation films. But what really is the difference between animation and narrative writing?
Yeah, that's a great question, because we might think that the narrative itself is different, but it's not really a different structure that you have to implement in animation. It's still the same Aristotelian structure that you use in any movie. What's different is that maybe you have a little more freedom to be. You need to be a little more direct, especially if you're writing for kids. If it's an animation directed to kids, there are some like things that you can and can't put into an animation, and you're able to be a little bit more clear with what you say. With what the character want and need, and they can express it a little less subtle than you find in a feature film. What's interesting and what allowed me to learn a lot about from animation is the cycle and the way they produce these movies. If any of you have ever seen a documentary or behind the scenes video about, let's say, a movie from Pixar, you learn the process they use, which is called these reels or animatic, which are like storyboards of the movie with scratch voices, temporary voices, and where you can play the whole movie. You write a draft of your script, and then the story artists, they bring that to life through very rough sketches, and then they're edited together so that you can sit down and play your entire story, your entire movie in a rough version. And, we say writing is rewriting, and there's nothing better than being able to sit down and see your first draft and hit play and basically watch your movie. And once the reel is completed, everybody watches it and they give feedback. And in Pixar, they call it the brain trust, where they get into a room, they do a projector, and then everybody, like, they throw their notes, they break the story apart, and then it's the director's job to collect the pieces and try together with the writer to make a better version of that. And so it's a cycle, and once you finish one draft, then you go right on the next one, and then you watch the animatic. And for me, that was a big learning experience to be able to, it's usually from the time you write until you can sit down to watch something like your story brought to life. It's a long time, and to be able to write something and then see it, like sometimes even if it's a specific scene, it can be even like days later, and you see it, and sometimes you learn that the joke you thought it was funny, it's not funny, or something that you thought it would work, or a clever line of dialogue, or some situation that you wrote into the script, you realize that it's not working, and so you have this great opportunity to work and fix before the movie gets into production. And a director friend of mine says that in animation we shouldn't have bad movies because of the animatic, because of this process, because you're able to watch it from beginning to end before you get into production. And so if it's not working there, it's never gonna work when you actually go into production. If the scene is not emotional, you can add all the strings and violins that you want, and it's not gonna be emotional because of the music. But if the animatic works, then everything that is brought to production design, sound, the actors, and everything, the beauty and magic of animation will bring that story to a higher level to connect even more.
Wow, cool. I didn't know that they actually did that, but it sounds like very helpful for the writer because it's played right in front of them and they know what's working and what's not working. That's awesome.
Yeah, and they do that in advertising as well. Since like producing a quick ad, let's say a 30 seconds ad is still like a big production. And I remember when I was little in Italy, I used to go to this focus group where they would show the animatic for the ad. And recently I was listening from like an agency where they asked everybody to grab their iPhone and draw some sketches and use their own voice to tell their pitch for the ad, the commercial they think. And I see that more and more live action production, they implement something similar. And I invite everybody like to try experiment with this for live action projects. But even if you have like whatever you can create that is closer to a storyboard and an animated version of that, even if it's just you on your laptop, like piecing it together, adding some music, so that you can, if it's a short film, that you can sit down and play it like from beginning to end. It's going to be very rough, but it will give you like an insight into the story that you won't have in any other way.
Cool. Yeah, I'll have to try that one time. I never really thought about that opportunity. So a lot of filmmakers have talked about struggling to find the motivation to write during these crazy times of the pandemic, or even just hitting a writer's block. How do you overcome this?
Writer's block, it's a thing. It's something that it strikes, and then like, for example, one of the projects, there are some specific plot problems that I'm not able to crack, like the plot of the story, and sometimes it goes on for weeks or even months, and you're still like stuck. But I try to think as if writer's block doesn't exist, because your work is to write. And what do I do when I feel like I have no idea I would do anything else but writing? I still sit down and write. And those times where you're staring at the screen and the blinking cursor like looking at you, and you have no idea what to put on the page, I believe that those afternoons, those long hours of not writing, they're actually very important. And sometimes like that hard thinking and work and try to like figure out the story will pay off later. And so I think that the key to conquer, to overcome writer's block is to write the bad version. You have to be able, and that's something that it's something that when you understand that it's going to be bad, it's going to be bad many times before it gets good. And but it's an act that it's humbling, because you know it's going to be bad, and it's going to hurt when you read it, and it's terrible. It's like, but to be able to sit down and write the embarrassingly bad version of what your idea is, it's something that helps me, like, to put things on the page. It's like, and then you rewrite it, and then again and again, and that's one way to deal with it. And also trying to like think even about what's not gonna solve the problem. This will never happen in my story. Okay, write it down somewhere, and sometimes you need to play with the material and to move it, and do not stop writing. That's my advice when you have writing block.
I agree, and I also think like when you do write down bad ideas, it's getting you somewhere, and it could motivate you or give you inspiration for other ideas too.
Yes, definitely. If you have multiple projects, maybe you can explore another project for a little bit, but I definitely don't believe in trying to hoping that you'll dream about the answer. I think that you need to sit down and do the work, and something that helps a lot is when you can talk about your story with somebody else. You know, especially if it's a plot problem or something you need to solve, and the right question, and even if it's the worst possible idea that you put on the table, somebody else can give you their take, and can somehow unstuck where you are. And that's why I love working with directors and being able to collaborate, just by the simple act of being able to express your problems with your script. It's really something that can help you. Mm-hmm. So if you have a writing group or friends or a mentor or somebody can help you, listen to you, like or even talk aloud, like that's even like if you're able to read your dialogue aloud, try to think aloud, write it down, write down what you feel when you're stuck, but be active, don't stop.
I definitely agree with that. And even like getting your friends to read the dialogue out loud, or getting actors to go on a Zoom call and just read a scene just to see how it plays out and if it's working and if it's not. So I want to change gears a little bit and talk about the initial stages of creating a script and your own writing process. How do you find inspiration for your scripts?
Okay, that's a great question, and I think that you get inspiration from life. Uh, Basically, it's like to pay attention to the things that make you. There are unique things that basically resonate with you, that can make you cry, make you laugh, make you think, and what are some issues that you haven't been able to solve about yourself, about the world, about like society, and really look into in. For me, it's like looking in, try to find a connection, a personal connection between myself and the story. Even if when I get a commission work from a producer or director, I always try to find what is within that story. There's always something that strikes a note, that it's something that gets to you in a very special way. And once you connect with that, then it becomes easier. And on a more practical level, I keep like a folder on my computer where one is called the magic box. When I find like an interesting picture, or I take an interesting picture or an article from a newspaper or something that's interesting, I collect it into this magic box folder, and they have like other folders for different ideas, and I try to write it down and see. And again, you need to write down the bad ideas as well, like something that you think you never do anything with it, because sometimes you get back to it later and you find something hidden that was there.
I love that idea of taking photos, because I feel like what's helped me get inspiration is trying different mediums out, like maybe listening to a song and trying to write something from that, or just photography, just like even cooking, you could get ideas. Just
Yeah.
trying
Have
something.
you heard about Story Dice? Or
No.
you find some apps or actual dice that you can throw, and they have like some icons on them, and you force yourself to write a story with those elements. And that is something that when you actually like you have a blank page and you want to find inspiration, I think the best way is to constrain yourself and say, I'm going to write about this and that. Let's say, I don't know, a palm tree and a car accident, and set in Los Angeles, and then you try to write a story like that almost. And sometimes in an exercise I do with students is to bring a black bag and take out random objects from it, and then ask people to write a story. And sometimes like this constraint, it looks like it's limiting you, but it's actually freeing you to have a very interesting idea that can come out from something that's totally random.
Cool. That's good advice. So I feel like a lot of beginner filmmakers worry that their story is just like all the others, and a lot of filmmakers I've heard say that there's nothing original anymore. Stories are just getting repeated and repeated. But how do you make your script stand out?
Well, I think it's a good question, very connected to the previous one, because the only thing is going to stand out in a story. You can try to make it original, but as you said, everything has been done before. What's unique about this story is you. Like, you are unique, and the more the story comes from yourself, from something that is really like that's deep, that has a deep connection with yourself, and an issue, something that happened to you, something that you experienced, and the more it's personal, the more personality it is, the more universal it will be. And we can actually let's do like an exercise with people that are listening and watching. So this is something that a teacher asked us to do, and it was very interesting to me. And let's divide it into parts. We'll do the exercise now, and then at the end we'll reveal the takeaway from me. But now, write down the 5 movies that you would watch over and over again, that you end up watching. Let's say it's a Friday night and you're watching TV or on Netflix, and the movie's on already, and you click on it, or you keep watching anyway. It's something that even if it's like a movie that is not artistically acclaimed and it's important to do this exercise without thinking about ourselves as filmmakers, because otherwise we will put like only like top name. If it's a
Like a guilty pleasure?
yeah, guilty pleasure, put it down. Yeah, yeah, and put down like the five movies that you watched over and over, and then we can remind me to get back to it. So we give some time for people to do it. We can get back to it and see how it relates to what you could write.
So talking about characters, making the story stand out, I feel like that's why you create characters, and the characters are the soul of the story. And on your website, you talk a lot about how to create empathy for your characters, which I think is very important. And there's not a lot of education around that. So I wanted to thank you for putting that out there. And what are the essential elements of creating characters like other ones?
Yeah, that's a great question, because something that I'm learning is that the more you write, the more you understand the character and plot are the same thing. And character is plot, and plot is character. The plot is like a consequence of who your protagonist is. And sometimes we have this whole plot figured out, but then we do not connect with the protagonist, and that's horrible, because you could have the like major most interesting story, but if there's not a connection with your main character, then you don't feel like as Andrew Stanton, the writer of Nemo and other great films, says, it's make me feel. He has a great TED talk about it. Make me feel about the main character. And like following the Finding Nemo, why do we feel for Marley? And then we start understanding that empathy is not just like checking marks of, okay, let's find something that is really hard for him to overcome. That it's really integrated into the concept of the entire movie. What do you want to say? What do you think? What is the truth that you're seeking to understand in the movie? And why does your main character, usually you can find out that they are believing a lie, and there's something in their life that is not true. It's not true, but they believe it. In the case of Finding Nemo, for example, is that the ocean and the world it's a dangerous place. And I remember from listening to some of the talks and analysis of the movie, for a lot of time they had, I don't know if you remember, like how it starts, where there is an accident where a barracuda eats the wife and all the kids except Nemo, all the eggs. And they used to have that like spread out throughout the movie, and then they decided to put it like at the very beginning. And that's something that represents the reason for him to believe that lie. So they call it the ghost. It's like a very strong and moment in the protagonist's life that makes him see the world in a certain way. So, and then you have two battling ideas, like the idea of freedom or letting go of like risk that's represented by Dory, and then you have this character that has this real struggle, and we understand, we have empathy toward this character. And then what is the worst that can happen to somebody like him, and his kid gets kidnapped. Not only that, but it's like he needs to cross the entire ocean. So we started understanding that the plot of the movie is not something separate from the main character, but it's a reflection of his journey, his own arc. So in the YouTube channel, we have a video analyzing the Joker, and we see like some specific elements, and to create empathy that can help you. But that's only one aspect of it. You can find like injustice toward your character, for example, or seeing your character doing something good towards somebody else, which is like the premise of the book Save the Cat, that invites you to have the character save a cat in the street at the beginning. It's okay. I mean, you can add those things on a superficial level that can help you a little bit creating empathy, but then you need to understand what is your movie about, and why is the story happening to this character. And when the more you see plot and character as one thing, the better off you will be creating an empathic or empathetic character and a movie where the audience can really relate to the character. And think about your own struggle, because that's real. If you can connect something, a question that you have, or something that really it's something very unique and intimate about your life, then it's going to be universal.
I definitely agree, and I think it's important that your main character does, like, the audience could relate to the main character, because if the audience can't relate, then they're not going to be interested in watching your film.
Exactly. You could have like a wonderful film, like in terms of visuals, dialogue, action scene, whatnot. But as you say, if they don't connect, then nothing else matters.
So shifting topics a little bit. So let's say that you spend months rewriting your script and you feel like it's ready for the next steps. What are the next steps after you have a finalized script?
Okay, when you feel like your story is ready, there are two things I think you should do. One is start writing the next project, because I see over and over like many people that get a little too attached to their first project, and it's usually you get to be a good writer by writing project after project. But let's focus on the project. Maybe you already have multiple projects and you want to promote one, and you want to. Many people, they finish the script and then now what? What do I do? What can I do with it? So and everybody is chasing like, how do you find an agent? How do you find a manager? And try to query letter and emailing everybody to try to get a connection. I suggest you go on a different route that is more real personal contact and friendship, and getting to know people that are working in the industry. You're a writer, find a producer, help them with their script. You're a director, try to find a writer, find actors, and get your work out there. Don't be afraid about people stealing your work, or if it's not good enough, like put it out there. Create a pitch and put it on YouTube. Make a website out of your screenplay with visuals, and try to get it to as many people as possible. I think that if you ask many people, the agent, the manager, they will come when the project already got the attention of somebody, actors, and don't be afraid. Something that many people, they are aware about, like there are a lot of scripts out there, but there are very few good stories. So if you think you have a good story, it will find its place. But if you keep it like in secret, and you only tell a few friends, and you're hoping to get an agent like out of the blue, that's unlikely. It can happen, but I think your best shot is to know that you're more creative than one script, so you can always come up with new ideas. And so the script, if you're detached enough, then you send it out much more. And I would suggest you can get to contests and other pitch festivals, but there's nothing like a direct connection with somebody. So nowadays we can, like through Facebook and social media, you can get to many people, and sometimes you think they will never get back to you, but I've been surprised in the past where I was able to contact A-list screenwriters that were able to sit down and have a chat and give some mentorship to me. I think that if I used to think that they would never answer, and then I started contacting them, and you might be surprised.
In a few words, can you talk about how to create a successful pitch?
The best way, I would say, is to try to see what is the core of your story. Have a killer logline, like really work hard on your logline, and then try to tell your story as if you were telling a friend about a good movie, and try to structure it so that it reflects like the structure of the movie, and it's very clear, spending a lot of time to create that empathy toward the main character, So even if the beginning takes a little longer than, and your pitch ends up being like the beginning ends up take a little more time than the rest of the movie, you want to make sure that you have this connection and to have like something that is really that hooks you with the character and not trying to impress with a clever plot. And then rehearse a lot and try to tell your friends. And for me, I'm an introvert. It's really hard for me to go out there and be like, for I know like some friends are writers and doctors, and they pitch, like when I see them pitching, it's like, oh, that's how you do it. And but like by trying to tell your story in a way and try to feel what you're saying is something that helps in a pitching situation. Keep it short and rehearse. Nowadays we have like during the pandemic, there's a lot of pitching being done like via Zoom, and there's basically almost no pitching, in-person pitching in Los Angeles right now. And I think that I've seen in this time people starting to do like video pitches where it's not live, it's pre-recorded, and they add like sometimes a little bit of art and music and stuff. I think that the person-to-person connection in a pitch is what you need. You need to understand if the other person is paying attention. But also, don't be afraid of like the producer, the executive can have a bad day, and you might be in a pitch and they're looking at their phone, or they seem distracted or tired. Sometimes it has a lot more to do with them that with the story. You can find them on a bad day. And don't get discouraged about those meetings that they can go wrong. This is similar to casting, like you need to do it often. And also like a piece of suggestion for when you're packaging your proposal, like for the story. Sometimes depending on this situation, it might be good to have like something that you do with TV, do a pitch deck for your movie, where you have like a document that sums up the movie. I see many people not doing a one page, which is like a one-page document with the entire story. And it's way easier for people to read one page. And it also helps you, because if you cannot reduce your story in one page, then your story has some problem. I mean, it's of course, the full treatment and the script itself will reveal a lot more, but it's hard to pitch a movie if you can't even reduce it to one page. So maybe that's something that many people can work on, and it will help you first to realize what are the important blocks of your story.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I was just doing a one pitch for one of the pilots that I'm writing, so I didn't know that a lot of executives and a lot of producers are starting to like only want the one page first too, before even getting the opportunity to pitch more.
Yeah, because it's really simple. It's a document, or normally it has a logline, which is like you're moving one sentence, and there's a log that goes into a logline, and then the rest of the page you fill it with basically a synopsis of the film, and then it has your contact. It's very, very simple document that, as you say, it's very easy for people to read and to pass to somebody else and forward. And so it's better to have like multiple one pages than like a single script that is finished. So if you have ideas, especially for TV, it's better to have multiple TV show Bibles where and maybe one episode that's written, then try to have your one TV series and write all the episodes, because that's a lot of work, and many things can change, and usually change from the moment you have your idea for your story to the actually pitching and getting to the green light from a production studio.
So what was a real breakthrough or realization you had for your craft that helped you succeed?
That's a tough question. That's a lot, and I consider myself somebody that's learning and relearning. I'm not. I mean, you never finish like learning, but a big breakthrough would be the moment where you realize that the writers that I admire, they have the same struggle when it comes to sit down and write. And because sometimes we might feel like we are not good for it. We are not good. Then maybe we should focus on something else. And maybe we feel like the material is horrible, and you have those days where you self-doubt, imposter syndrome, however you want to call it, it creeps in and basically tells you to stop. And but then you realize that even like the great directors and writers with multiple awards and with a series of movies one after the other, they still feel that every day. And to sit down and write, it's painful, and they would do also anything else instead of it. And you hearing it from A-list writers and seeing that is part of the craft. That is what you choose to be when you write. And also the frustration will never go away. It's similar when you start exercising, you want to get better. You know that it's gonna hurt every time. It's not gonna. It gets easier, but it's still an effort. Multiply that for 1,000 when you decide to write, and that what helps is to write every day and try to stick to your schedule and understanding that I think, and also that we tend to analyze movies and scripts once they're written and produced. So when we read a screenplay, we say, oh, this is a masterpiece. This is so good. I would never, it's going to be impossible for me to get to this kind of level. Or even worse, when we watch a movie, and we need to remind ourselves that that's the final product. That's the final piece of art and we never get to see all like the many rewrites that it went through. And sometimes you hear from directors say, oh, every movie is bad at the beginning. And it was hard for me to believe that until I got to direct contact with some of the people I admire in the industry, and they basically, you discover that that's what everybody goes through. And so don't give up when you feel like your material is not good.
So let's go back to the thing you were talking about with the 5 movies. What were you talking about? Like the 5 films?
Yeah. So mention you have you don't have a project right now, and you're thinking about starting something from scratch. You have the blank page, and you don't know what you should write about. I think the worst thing to do is try to chase a trend and say, oh, this is popular, we should do now this kind of movie or that. First of all, because by the time you write and the time the movie gets made and released, everything will change. But most importantly, is not connected to yourself. And this exercise allows you to see what are the themes that resonate with you. And if you look at the list that you created of your 5 films, you should see, if you analyze them through the eyes of the protagonist and their struggle and journey, that there's something that connects with you. And maybe you cry, and as you say, it's a guilty pleasure, a movie that you're, it's not artistic, but there's something about that story that moves you somehow. And usually people get to find out that there is a common theme throughout these 5 movies, and that is very informative. And sometimes it's surprising, like where you find that these protagonists, these kinds of story have something in common, and maybe you can choose to write a story that has to do with those themes. So that's an exercise. It's not always so revealing, but sometimes I've seen like people even crying like after doing the exercise, discovering something about themselves, because we think we watch movie, especially when before getting into filmmaking, we think we like them because of the special effects, the action, but there's always something deeper.
I think that helps you establish your own style as a filmmaker too, and discover that. So what's next for you?
Okay, now I'm in the middle of writing 3 animated feature films and rewriting a short film that is going to be a combination between live action and CGI animated characters. And so we're waiting for some feedback on some of the projects, and they're very close to production. That's something that it's really a good news for me. At least 2 of the 3 movies are very close to production, and so I'm focusing on that, and I hope to be able to tell you more very soon about those.
Congrats, that's very exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's great.
So I am very excited also because he would like to offer 5 screenwriters a free 20-minute Zoom call to give you the chance to be able to talk about your screenplay or answer any questions you may have. So to apply, please visit our link in the description below. And check out Pietro's website, Write Something Great, for educational articles about screenwriting to bring your screenwriting game to the next level. This has been such a great discussion, and just listening to you gives me a lot of motivation to work on my own scripts. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.